Hey guys, it's Dorian. Plumbing was shut off in our office today, so that means get the day off. Hooray for that. Uh, I wanted to talk about partitioning in Linux. One thing that is particularly confusing for people is extended partitions. So I'll show you as we go here. Basically, before you're going to edit your partitions, you want to make sure that they're not mounted. The disk that you're editing is not being used. So in order to do that, you can download something like Knoppix, which is a live CD distribution. It boots off the disk, runs off the disk. You can also do it with most modern distributions like Ubuntu does it, Linux Mint does it, and whatnot. You basically download the ISO, and you can use a program called UNetbootin, which has a Linux version and a Windows version. And you can plug in a USB stick, point to the ISO, it'll copy all the files needed to the USB, make it bootable, and then you can reboot off your USB. For Windows, there's also Rufus. I actually prefer Rufus, to be honest. And it does the same thing. You would pick your ISO image and it will make your USB stick bootable. Once you have that, you're going to boot off of your DVD, CD, or USB and try to see if you have gparted installed. You can also just open a terminal and try to run gparted. Root privileges are required. I do have it installed, obviously. If not, then you could just sudo apt install gparted and it will install it for you. Once it's running, you could do gksu or sudo or sudo, however you want to pronounce it, because you need to be an administrator to run gparted. So switch to my other disk. I made a small 500 megabyte disk just for an example here. So a lot of people have issues when they're upgrading their disks. So they have a little 120 megabyte or 120 gigabyte SSD, and then they upgrade to a 500 or whatnot. And then you have, as you can see on the end here, unallocated space because you've cloned your drive onto a larger drive, and now you have all this extra space that you want to use. Another thing is people decide they want to get rid of Windows because Windows, as you can see here, SDB1 was installed first. So, because usually it's on a Windows machine, and they want to try Linux, so they shrunk down their Windows partition to what they needed to function, and then created new partitions to put Linux on. So I have the 300 megabyte partitions here. So your operating system, which would be your root, and then a swap, and then some storage. So a user might say, okay, well now I don't need Windows, or I'll keep Windows on my old drive, so delete that. All right, apply, done. So now you have empty space in front and behind your Linux partitions. So you say, okay, well, I can take this and just move it over or grow it. So right click, resize, move. You can't. You can shrink it, but you can't grow it and you can't move it. Well, why? My hint is here, if you look at the extended partition, it contains your 3 Linux partitions. A hard drive can only have 4 primary partitions, and after that you start getting into the extended partitions. If this is the case for you, you have an extended partition with your Linux partitions inside. This is where people get stuck and they don't quite know what to do. If this isn't the case, then you might have a totally different problem, but I'm talking about this particular case. So what you need to do here is you need to first resize the extended partition which contains your Linux partitions. So you're going to select it here in the menu, resize move. Now you can grow it, right? So you could take up your available space on either end. So you go, okay, resize, move, apply, and everything completed, done. Well, what happened? I grew the partition, the extended partition, but there's still space here. What's the deal with that? Well, an extended partition, think of it as a box. It's a box with no bottom in it. We're looking at it from the top, for example, here. So the blue line around here is your hard drive. The green is the extended partition, how we had it before, and you had your Windows partition in this empty space here in the front. The SDB5 is your main operating system ext4 partition, and then we'll say that the SDB6 is your swap, for example. So when you're resizing your extended partition, you open it up to take up the free space, but the boxes inside the green box stay still because they're still sitting on the ground, right? So think of the extended partition as a box with no bottom, and you can move this box even, and your partitions inside will not move because they still have a start and end that don't change just because you're resizing the extended partition. So then once you've moved your extended partition, your green box, now you have space to be able to extend the partitions inside it. And same thing this way. You can expand it that way. Now you can make this one bigger because they're contained within the extended partition in the green box. So once you have your extended partition taken up all the unallocated space, now you can decide what you want to do with your main partitions that are inside it. So now you can resize, and now you can see it could be moved over. All right. And it's going to warn you, might cause your system to fail to boot. It's possible. That's why you always make backups. So now we've moved that over. So now we can resize, move. Let's move this over. Yes, you're going to get that warning every time you're moving it. And then this one is just our storage. And so it could be your /home folder. It could just be storage for movies, music, whatnot. So let's have that take up the rest of the space. So we're just going to grow it on either side. Resize, move, yes. Apply, apply. Now it's going to do all its operations to move everything around. Now you're done. So you've got all your space taken up now. Your old Windows partition is gone. You have much more storage space now, and life is good. So anyways, I just wanted to do that really quick just to show you, give you a better understanding of how it works. A lot of people can't wrap their head around it. It's really hard to type out an explanation. So I hope this helps, and see you next time. Bye, Sean.